Hi guys, Hengist here from House of Hengist Comics, and a big welcome back to the channel, old beans, and a big welcome to our new subscribers. Today it's Blitzkrieg, episode 15 at FIZE FONTAINE, very close to Liège. But first, the news. And let's take a look at a map that we've dug up, and here you can see Liège, but it's also got all the French dispositions, so we'll be studying that. We're also going to be looking at the German news, and we'll start with Die Deutsche Wochenschau, which was a weekly newsreel which was basically used by Goebbels to propagate his history, per se, of the events. Importantly, Harry Gies was one of their famous presenters, and he was a continuation, so a voice that was friendly on that radio news broadcast. But importantly, we've also got other magazines which are used to support this, such as the Signal and the Adler, and these were really crucial to re-embed basically particular ideas of doctrine and the war. Well, these magazines, as we can see here, are predominantly designed for the armed forces and propagate the myths about German supremacy, their tactics, and they were very useful, I believe, for the German soldiers themselves. We've also got Lord Haw, Germany calling, an infamous traitor considered by the Allies, who was to basically counter the world servers. But today a big focus will be on the war correspondent and their role during combat, and the difficult dichotomy they face between actually reporting, I suppose, what they saw and what the nations wanted. So today we're going to be looking at a Polish war photographer, that's Leon Sobriński, and we'll be countering him with Franz Zimmer, a German reporter as well, and they'll be on the front line. But as we return to the maps, we're going to be really looking at my favourite map here towards Liège and the areas around Tongres. As you can see, Fort Baptiste, we've done that, and this is a retreat operation. So let's start with what's going on. The Germans are, again, with their motorised infantry and their mounted and foot-slogging soldiers, continue to move forward. A lot of prisoners are being taken. A lot of equipment is being captured. And we can see Germans here in a tourist role as well. So whilst towns surrender, we have carnage on the roads with lots of livestock basically dead, civilians disrupting traffic, as we've discussed, and it can't have been good for British morale as they're moving forward into this. So let's look at the Belgian forces today and what they've got. Well, we've been looking at the Belgian divisions, and today this is part of the 3rd Division. There may actually be air support, I don't know, I wouldn't count on it, so to speak. But we've also got some tank destroyers, as you can see here, but most of it will be a general infantry company with all their sort of machine guns, their mortars. They won't be dug in to start with, and they're trying to conduct a withdrawal, so it's going to be tough against armour, and we'll have to wait and see what happens there. With regards to the German forces, well, again, it's going to be mainly German Panzers, led again by the Kradschützen, who will be leading in the van. These guys seem to be able to go anywhere and do just about anything. They're incredibly well armed, and it's a force that shouldn't be underestimated. Here we can see a lovely picture coming up of the BMW, a great motorbike, and brilliant for these motorised infantry. But they will be supported by a number of tanks as well, and those tanks basically will be looking effectively for the opportunity to overrun these Belgian forces. So let's get into the research now, and here we've got a map of FIZE FONTAINE, as you can see, and it's very open terrain. And so let's go to the aerial shot that we've taken off Google, and this gives you a better perception of the terrain in itself, and a great landscape shot here, which is what we use really to construct the sets, as you can see. This shot's going down that main road towards FIZE FONTAINE. Here's some sheep next to the Dubonnet sign, and obviously we've got a little bit of the outskirts of the town. Now the Belgians will be falling back and defending and having to turn about to confront the Panzers. They've been caught on the move trying to redeploy, so to speak, so it'll be very interesting. So again, we'll be using Achtung Panzer, and I thought I'd quickly talk about the battle deck here. We use that for fine detail, but here are some of the rules that we're looking at. We have 3 stats: pinned, pinned down and suppressed. And also we allow for overwatch, which is conducted in the other player's move, and you can fire as you can do a sort of reaction move or a disengage move. This is used a lot for civilians as well, and it's generally before impact, and reaction can also be used for other feats of arms and things like that. So without further ado, let's get into the action. Well, it's a really good day, clear weather, warm, ideal panzer conditions. Here's the first objective for 10 victory points, the intersection, and here's the second objective the Germans are after, which is this White House as we zoom in. We're using blind deployment, so each side will deploy their forces on the map and then lay it out all down as the Panzers basically start their engines and start moving forwards in the long grass. They're concentrated with their light tanks on the right flank in the center of the Panzers, and the Belgians are basically strung out with a strong gun line with their sort of tank destroyers in ambush. As we can see here from these photographs, they are not dug in, and this gives a good idea of the deployment here as sketched by the Belgian commander. Immediately the Kratschützen race up to where the Dubonnet sign and the orchard is, and immediately move up along with the reconnaissance along the road. They're moving down towards the 75mm gun line, which is here in the field, which is dug in. Unfortunately, the green troops are still green and they failed to dig in. This is very, very dangerous, especially as the enemy are pushing on with incredible speed and coming straight at them. Without even regard for the fence line, they're just hitting that real quick, and the Panzers move really with great momentum and power. As they come in, they also get a battle deck card which gives them pre-arranged artillery which hits that intersection, blowing the staff team and the command team to pieces as the little SDKs open fire, killing 20 men in that field who couldn't dig in. It's looking very bad for the Belgians already to start with. However, the Belgians start to get it together and lay smoke in front of their infantry, basically to prevent the Panzers firing, and the 75mm guns load into the breach, fire and push the SDKs back, who are compelled to retire. The Panzer 1s and 2s, two platoons move forward as the Panzer 3s break into the open field, but then there's an ambush. The tank destroyers come out along with that gun line. They're looking to basically, this is their moment, open fire. And they do fire, and all guns and all breaches eject, and the rounds fire down range, and basically they manage to hit a Panzer III, its turret blowing clean off. The Panzer 2s and 1s are also hit. 2 are damaged, 1 is burning, as the Germans call in Stukas. These do devastation and hit, but they basically pin. They knock out one tank destroyer, as you can see it burning here. And we continue on at this real race as the German infantry, who pass through the orchard, the Kratschützen move in, but then they get hit by mortars and artillery and basically get pinned. They're pretty much there for the rest of the game, which is a disaster, as the 45mm guns, they're going to be the king of the battlefield, take so much fire but keep unpinning. There's dead Belgians all over the place, but another Panzer III goes up. She's basically hit just in the front, and she just basically explodes. So we've got 2 Panzer IIIs out of action, and this means they have a platoon motivation test which they subsequently fail. So all the Panzer IIIs leave except the 1 and 2 IC. The 45mm gun is dominating. The Belgian mortars are falling back in good order. The infantry remains resolute. And basically we now see the Panzer 1s and 2s try and flank. They start opening fire on that 45mm position. They're trying to defilate it, but no joy as they bring in more artillery, trying to pound that position using the SDKs. We've also got airstrikes that are coming in, but every time they bomb and pin, basically the Belgians continue to get back and fight. And they then knock out a Panzer 1, which is basically blown to pieces by that 45mm gun. And then subsequently they open fire as well with the 75mm guns on the Panzer command tanks. We've also got air attacks, as we can see, coming in, but they're just not getting anywhere. And the Belgians look really in a confident position now, as the Germans begin to be a bit hesitant with their light tanks. However, the Panzer III commander decides to push on and carry on this attack, and he sends his tanks again in forwards, and they're trying once more to basically take on this gun line supported by infantry, as the Belgians have to start pulling platoons and their heavy machine guns move out. And this makes the situation very precarious for both sides, because effectively there are 5 turns left, and the Belgians are going to have to start pulling platoons, so they're going to get weaker. And what we now see is a very aggressive round by the Panzer commander, who opens fire, finally takes out one of the 45 mils, and a Panzer II also takes out the other 45 mil, and that platoon breaks. We've now got a real balance on our hands, as the Belgians are compelled to bring their tank destroyers round. They in turn open fire and basically hit a Panzer one, they knock that out, and then another one, 2 destroyed, 1 by fire, and the Panzer ones in return fire basically damage, and that compels basically them to pull that as the second platoon, so it moves off. We've also got artillery which is pounding the 75mm gun line, and that takes 2 out, but the other 2 return fire and knock out the 2IC. It is now really desperate, as the SDK is basically destroyed as well. So effectively the Germans have lost 3 platoons. Their infantry are stuck and they break. The company breaks. Just as it had its moment really to charge, it failed. And basically the Panzer III has to call in that he's encountered heavy resistance. And ultimately it's a Belgian victory, guys, by 25 points. But a great game. This scenario is challenging for both sides, especially the Belgians having to pull out. But will be interesting to see what Leon Sibrensky basically states and reflects, and also that of Hans Zimmer, how they will report this, or whether it will be filled with a sort of propaganda or myth-like response. We'll have to wait and see. But the Panzer Angriff was stopped, and it's clear that they can be stopped by determined gun lines and dug-in infantry. When they did what they did, they caused a lot of casualties, the Allied forces. They've got very powerful guns. So the infantry would probably be called in to try and clean up, whilst the tanks would obviously just move on around it. And this is the key to Blitzkrieg. Rommel and Goering won't stop. And this is the thing that the Allies expect them to do, stop and take stock. But as the civilians continue to live in fear from above, here's a great site that we found where we find a lot of our information. And do remember, we've got Holland coming up very soon, Fortress Holland. So stay tuned with us, stay lucky, and it's over and out from me. Bye for now.